You're listening to the Really Useful Podcast. This is the tech podcast for technophobes from makeuseof.com. We'll be bringing you the tech news that matters. We've got some tips and tricks to help you make better use out of your tech. And if you're lucky, we'll also bring you some recommendations selected by myself, Christian Corley, and this week's co-host, Gavin Phillips. Gavin, how are you doing?
Doing really well, Christian. Had a nice weekend filled with lots of pizza. How about yourself?
How much pizza?
A lot of pizza. Pizza on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I'd say that's a decent amount of pizza for one weekend.
That is a lot of pizza for one weekend. I wish I'd had a lot of pizza. I don't eat an awful lot of pizza these days for dietary reasons. But when I get the opportunity, I enjoy it considerably. Yeah, I had a good weekend here. Weather hasn't been too great, so we just did stuff around the house, really. Bit of gaming, bit of Mario Kart, a few other games. Did my weekly/monthly mull over whether to upgrade the Nintendo Switch account to the expanded account. I still haven't committed. So we've got for you a few things to discuss this week. We're going to have a look at the best Microsoft app for 2022 voting, Windows 11 now in a box, and a few tips and tricks that will help you make better use of the technology that you already have. And as I said, we've got some recommendations at the end of the show. But we'll kick off. A few weeks ago, we discussed this, and now it is now a thing that is actually happening. The 2022 Microsoft Store App Awards. It's bigger than the Oscars!
Oh my gosh. I can't believe this is a real thing. It doesn't even make sense.
No, I can't remember whether it was Gavin or Ben that was on when we talked about this last time, but it's basically, we suspect it's a method for Microsoft to detect which apps have a following, although based on installs, they should know that already, and whether it's some sort of, get a better look at how people are using it, what they expect from apps, and hopefully some sort of vague attempt to get rid of the spammy apps.
Yeah, I would think so. Also, some of the apps, do have a proper following, don't they? Ones like Excel, for instance, it's not just people using them for work, people use them for so many different things. I'm sure you're aware, Christian, there's the Excel World Championships. Do you know about this?
What?
So, okay, right. So
You're having a laugh.
No, I'm really not. So it's not specifically called the Microsoft Excel World Championships, but there is a financial data modeling World Championships, which of course uses Microsoft Excel as, the go-to tool for everyone. So it's, known by as the Microsoft Excel World Championship, and you could be the world champion of Excel. I think that's awesome.
Okay. Well, we have esports these days. Why not Excel Sports?
Oh, yeah. Imagine tuning into that on your Friday evening on Twitch. Just going to watch some Excel, darling.
Well, it makes a change to that women's football.
Yeah.
Another matter entirely. So, yes, Microsoft is giving you the chance to vote for your favourite Microsoft Store app. So good luck. They've even produced a form.
Oh, nice.
It's not just like, you don't just get the opportunity to go into the store app and then choose something. They've actually compiled two lists, I think it is. One of community choice open platform, of utility. Oh, three lists, and file management. They're your categories. And then you choose the best ones from those. Yeah. And it's a bit dull, isn't it? But, there you go. I still don't really get I know what it's for, and I understand why it's used, and the ethos behind it, and all that sort of thing with the Microsoft Store on Windows 10 and Windows 11 and Windows 8 before that. But ultimately, is it really that much easier than going to a website and installing something? I don't think it given the vast choice of utter garbage that's on there, I don't really think it adds anything to Windows. What do you think?
So I think there's a definite difference between the old store that we had on Windows 8 and for a long time on Windows 10. So the Windows 11 Microsoft Store definitely shook things up a bit. It's
Hmm.
definitely way more usable than what we've seen previously from Microsoft. And they've obviously listened to concerns that you've literally just raised. Like, there's so much trash to wade through to find what I actually want. What's the point in using this? So it's a lot more structured now, and you're more likely to find stuff sitting under the proper categories as well that you'd expect. Like photo editing will have actual apps that you want to use rather than a whole bunch of spamware or whatever. And the other obvious benefit of the Microsoft Store versus a separate download is that your apps will always update to the latest version automatically, which can be really handy if you're worried about security and stuff like that, or you always want to be on the latest version. So, I'm with you, Christian. I'd always go to the website and download something separately. But for those who do want to put updates into the back of the mind, it's worth considering maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose if you're in tablet mode, then maybe this is useful, but the rest of the time, it doesn't. I never use it, basically.
No,
So
no, no, I never use it.
let us move on now to a very interesting, I say very interesting, slightly interesting topic. You can now buy Windows 11 in retail box form. So this might seem strange because most computers don't have a DVD/CD or optical whatever drive anymore. But these boxes contain a Windows 11 USB drive. They retail at $139.99 for home and $199.99 for Pro versions. That's kind of cool. You can buy Windows 11 off the shelf again, which is useful if you don't have a computer to download anything to, and then a spare computer, secondary computer, friend's computer, family member's computer. Come on, these things aren't going to happen. I can't see this selling an awful lot, but I suppose it's useful to have, isn't it? Although it is expensive. It is an expensive USB drive.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. And you'd think they're not going to bulk it out to be like a 16 or a 32 gig drive. It's going to be what, maximum 8? That's all a Windows installation takes these days. So if you make one at home using Microsoft's media creation tool, that's all you need. So I mean, they're, like I said, they're not going to chuck you in a nice big drive just for fun, are they? So
No.
yeah, I mean, yes, interesting, good in the use cases you laid out. A lot of people probably aren't sure about how to go online and find out how to use the media creation tool. We've got lots of articles about that on makeuseof.com if you are wondering how. But yeah, if not, then this is, a good option.
Absolutely. So yeah, on the shelf, off the shelf, into your CD drive. No, because there isn't a CD in it. It's a USB drive.
That's it. God, imagine they
Yeah.
did ship a disc. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to use it.
Well, I'm actually using. Right, hold on. What have I got in front of me? I've got 13-inch in front of me, no drive. I've got the HP Envy in front of me, which has a DVD drive, and then I've got my Windows computer in the house. This is the HP Envy is the only one I've got that has a DVD drive.
Yeah, I have the same. My laptop is the only thing that has a disk drive, and I've been toying with swapping that out actually for another storage space. Swap it out for a hard drive or another
Yeah.
SSD because it
Well,
just gets so little use.
I've been thinking about doing the same, and I've done it before. And there's actually a tutorial on Make Use of when I demonstrated how you do this. But the curious thing I noticed that when I did that,
Mm.
that sort of like gearing sound you get just before your CD drive activates.
Yeah.
It still did that,
Oh wow, interesting.
which
So
was
like the
really
sort of
weird.
whirring.
Yeah, it's not quite the whirring, but that they're just sort of like it's just sort of like sort of it's like gear sound or an activating sound or something like a motor activating sound, something like that. It's as if the
Yeah.
computer didn't know, although it did know. Maybe the hardware didn't. Maybe there's some sort of like hardwired hardware in there that refers to the CD drive in the at a BIOS level, then tries to activate it. Something like that. It's difficult to say, but basically what happened, there would always be a sort of like a half to 1 second hang and with an accompanying sound from within the computer, whilst I'd replaced the hard at the times when I replaced hard disk with the CD drive.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Well, I'll go and look up your article and look how to do it, because it looks, from what I've read, it does look like a fairly simple
yeah,
process.
it is straightforward, definitely.
Yeah.
You don't need any. All you need is a screwdriver. No soldering, no rewiring required, dear listener.
That's the sort of DIY I like.
Absolutely. Now, if you're new to Bitcoin or your name is Amy, you might be interested in Bitcoin Pizza Day. This is a commemoration of the first ever cryptocurrency transaction for a tangible object. Gavin, I always defer to you on matters of cryptocurrency. What's this all about?
So, Bitcoin Pizza Day is as you said, the first time people have recorded that someone making a significant purchase of something tangible. And in this case, it was 2 pizzas. And the price paid for the 2 pizzas was a whopping 10,000 Bitcoin, which at the time, in May 2010, was worth the humble sum of $40.
Oh,
Yeah, not bad, eh?
whereas
10,000 Bitcoin. Nowadays, it's worth over $300 million. But, so before you think about it, the guy who received the received the Bitcoin for the pizzas, did not hold on to the Bitcoin, unfortunately. He is not a multi millionaire, which is a shame, because that would have been the perfect story.
Yeah, totally. He could have really grown his pizza outlet with that, couldn't he?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So it's a small momentous day in the history of Bitcoin that comes around every year and reminds people that although Bitcoin is obviously used predominantly for currency speculation these days, it does also have tangible use, and you can use Bitcoin to buy real things in the real world.
Is it worth, as a sidestep from this amusing crypto coin chat, quickly going over just what's happened in the crypto world over the past week and why the prices have crashed?
Oh yeah, okay. So the Bitcoin price and the wider market have taken a bit of I'll say a considerable slam throughout the last sort of 2 weeks or so. The markets were already looking slightly shaky at the start of April. This has been compounded by a cryptocurrency outfit called Terra Labs, who run 2 different cryptocurrencies. One called Terra UST and one called Terra Luna. Without getting really bogged down in it, these 2 cryptocurrencies are linked together. They attempt to keep the price of one of them, Terra UST, stable and pegged to $1. This is what's known as a stable coin. The price of the stable coin depegged from $1, which means it dropped off and it kept dropping. So the coin linked to it, Terra Luna, started to be put more of this out onto the market in an attempt to stabilize it. Now, that caused massive inflation on the price of Terra Luna, which forced the price from over $120 per token down to absolute zero. It's worth nothing. And this happened overnight. Within a period of about 12 hours, the price crashed, wiped out about 50 odd billion from the crypto markets instantly. People have lost their life savings, all sorts of stuff. So people involved in those 2 cryptocurrencies are having a very bad time at the moment. But the wider market, as Christian said, has also taken a bit of a hammering on this basis, with the price of Bitcoin now hovering around $23,000, I think, at the time of writing, from the start of the year when it was up around up above 40 and towards 50. But also, for perspective, although that sounds like a massive loss, which it is, That's still around $20,000 more than it was at the start of 2019. It was still only around $3,000 per coin. So, as lots of people in the world of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency say, don't look at the week, take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because it's highly likely, although obviously this is not financial advice and we do not deliver financial advice, it's highly likely the price of Bitcoin will recover. Well, that's what everybody's praying for anyway.
Yeah, it's one to keep an eye on. If you have any crypto, even if you don't, it's going to be interesting either way. Let's move on now to a look at how to connect two routers together to boost your Wi-Fi. And I'm delighted to see this appearing on Make Use Of by Josh Coe, because it's something I've done and I've messed it up slightly in such a way that one of the routers stops my Xbox from going online.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah,
that sounds like it would be the DHCP
yeah, exactly.
related.
And I don't seem to be able to communicate with the second router.
Oh no.
Yeah. Great, hey. This is a really good thing. Basically, what you can do, you can connect two routers with an Ethernet cable. Your main router and then the secondary router, maybe an old router from your previous ISP or something like that, and then extend the coverage of your wireless network around your home. What you need is a primary router, a secondary router, an Ethernet cable, computer, and obviously an internet connection. And you basically connect the two devices over together with the Ethernet cable. But before you do that, you need to set up each router individually. And this helps you to avoid the network problems that I've just described that I've encountered. So it's straightforward, but the problem is we can't really go into this in any particular detail because router interfaces differ wildly, don't they?
Yeah, everyone is different, especially if you're using, the one typically supplied by your ISP. Those do tend to come with less options than if you buy your own router, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. But generally speaking, generally speaking, the primary router should have DHCP enabled, and the secondary router should not have it enabled. And there's a couple of other things that you'll need to check in there as well, but that's the general gist of it. We have a full guide for this, which you will find a link to in the show notes, along with everything else that we discuss in this week's really useful podcast. Now, what if you get an email that you consider to be slightly suspicious or particularly intriguing, and you want to know where it's come from? Well, you could look at the email address, but that's only going to tell you so much. Perhaps if it's been sent from webmail, it's going to tell you absolutely nothing. If it's come from an institution or an organization, at very least, the end of the email will give you a clue as to what that organization is and how to get back in touch with them. However, there are other ways to track email addresses, aren't there, Gavin?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say there's two primary ways you can attempt to do this, and I say attempt because although you can use these methods to look through the information given to you, there's actually no real guarantee that you'll find the root of where the email was sent from. However, let's discuss the methods before considering why they might not work. So the first option is the data in the full email header. And so every email sent has this thing called an email header, and that contains all the information relating to where it came from, who sent it, which servers it's been through, which service it is using, and all of this sort of stuff. And all of this information is collectively known as metadata, the data about the data.
Sure.
So with Gmail, Outlook, Apple, Yahoo, whatever email service it is, every email will have an email header. You might have ones that are more anonymized and deliver less information. For instance, Proton Mail, the privacy anonymous focused email stuff, I know has a very, very cut down header. Excuse me. But so you can take this information and you can read through the header in an attempt to figure out where it came from. So you'll have categories like delivered to, and that would be who received the email. and it will have something like return path, and that's where it would go back to if it was bounced back. You'll also have things like authenticate results, and that's where the email has been authenticated from, and that's another way you can see where it has come from. However, the problem with it is that looking at it as a human with normal eyes, unless you've looked at an awful lot of email headers, a lot of it looks just like gobbledygook.
Yeah.
There's so many different bits of information thrown at you that it's basically impossible to discern what you're actually looking at. So that leads me to the second way you could do it, and that's use a tool to help you figure out where it's come from, which makes everything much nicer and much easier. So there's a couple of tools you can use to do this. One of the best ones is MX Toolbox. You pop it in and it will tell you the originating IP or an original IP, and hopefully that will lead you to the first IP address. That's Internet Protocol address, the address linked to your internet connection, and we'll show you where it has come from. Now, that's really good on one sense. You've got an IP address which you could use to find a geographical location, because every IP address is linked to a geographical location. However, the problem with that then is that we're not all sending emails from a single geographical location, and especially people who are using services like Gmail, Outlook Online, Yahoo, anything like that, are not sending an email from their home. They're sending it from Google's server or Microsoft's server. So if you take that IP address that you were given and you throw it into a tool that's known as an IP lookup tool, you find them online. There's lots of them. It's not going to tell you where that person's house is. It's going to tell you where the last server that processed the email is. Again, that is information, but it's not useful.
Which is a shame, but it's kind of understandable, isn't it? That I mean, there's no way really. If I send an email from my phone whilst in London, no one's going to know where I was.
No, absolutely. And in reality, you don't really want people to be able to look up where you sent an email from, do you? I know if I sent an email from my email account, it would probably say somewhere nearby, because I use a Cornish hosting service from Cornwall, so it would say somewhere in Cornwall. But on that, you would only get to wherever those servers are hosted in Cornwall.
Yeah.
So I think, for me anyway, the privacy trumps anything else.
We now reach that part of the show where we say, what are your recommendations? We don't actually say that. We've never actually said that before, but I mean, it's a new introduction to this part of the show. It is the recommendation section in which Gavin and myself will offer something that we've experienced, electronic or digitally streamed or entertainment or a gadget or some hardware, anything like that, and which we think you may be interested to learn more about. We haven't discussed this in advance in any detail. Gavin knows what I may suggest. I have no idea what he's going to suggest, but I guess the main question is, which one of us is going first?
I can go first if you want, Christian.
Oh, go on then.
Yeah, all right, I will.
Good.
Okay, so this week I am going to suggest some earbuds that I reviewed recently for makeuseof.com. I feel like they are worthy of suggestion to our listeners, and they are called the One More ComfoBuds Mini. And the reason I mention these earbuds is because they are apparently the smallest earbuds on the market, the smallest ANC earbuds, I'll add, on the market in the world. So they measure 3.7 grams per bud, and they are around the size of a thumbnail. I don't have particularly big hands, I must say, so okay. If you've got bigger thumbs,
I ain't gonna get that in my ear.
Yeah. Just the thumbnail though. So they are genuinely incredibly small. They fit perfectly inside your ear. And if you are someone who likes to attempt to sleep with earbuds in, as I know a lot of people do, um, they're actually the first earbuds I've ever used that I could keep in without issue for the entire night. They are not, they don't have a stem or anything like that. They are proper actual buds, so they sit within your ear canal. And more to boot, they actually sound really good for the size and the technology that they've managed to fit into them. The ANC works really, really well. They use Bluetooth 5.2. You get about 6 hours of playback on the buds, up to 25 hours on the carry case. And overall, considering their size and versus what other things you can find in the market, I think they are really quite good.
Okay, that's cool. Excellent. You'll find a link to that in the show notes. Now it's time for my. Now, in a week in which I've had a bit of a varied week, actually, and I've discovered that I absolutely hate 3D printers, for example. More on that next week. And I've also discovered the virtues of exercise bikes in front of the telly, or, in other words, in front of the game console.
Nice.
Oh yes. It's kind of it's a weird recommendation, but basically I've discovered that we bought an exercise bike. I'm beyond 45 now, so keeping a little bit trim is kind of important. My wife feels similarly, and we don't have space for new bikes at the moment, so we've got some building work planned for later in the year for a new bike shed. So we thought, well, rather than splash out on new bikes, we'll just get an exercise bike. And, we've got plenty of space in front of the TV. Xbox, Switch, they're both in front of the TV. Also the Evercade. But anyway, the point is, I've spent several lunchtimes, and today's going to be another one, in front of the TV, playing Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, nice.
whilst cycling madly. And it was really, really cool. I thought, why didn't I discover this years ago? Why? I'm getting fit and playing video games at the same time.
Okay. So did your cycling rate increase as you got further into the game and
It
doing
depended what I was
battles?
doing.
Yeah.
Battles I tended to pause, but whilst the character's running, I was pedaling like mad. So yeah, it was really good. And I've burnt off plenty of calories doing this. I'm cycling about 15 kilometers in about 30 minutes, which isn't great. Certainly not as good as I would have been able to do when I was like 16. But it's better than nothing. And I think I'm the sort of person that has really kind of really defined legs. I'm not He-Man or anything. I've got reasonably defined legs for my age. But my top half isn't anything like that. And I think it's to do with just doing all the lifting work, having 3 children, lots of carries and stuff like that. I think it's probably something to do with that. But I mean, that's not even my main recommendation, because my main recommendation was on Friday night. I was on the exercise bike playing Mario Kart in a custom tournament. I didn't know you could do this. I'd thought previously that if you play Mario Kart online, you just join a random group. I didn't know you could set up tournaments. So this is kind of my recommendation: is Mario Kart in a custom tournament on an exercise bike.
Ah, nice. So, I mean, I've just got to double check. Is the exercise bike obligatory, or can the listener just do the tournament?
You can just do the tournament, yeah.
Ah, nice. Well, I think that makes it easier for everyone to access. But that does sound really, really cool.
Put it running on the spot, running machine, anything.
Oh, yeah, get on the treadmill. Nice.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen those under desk things that you can get?
I did think about getting one, and then I thought it was slightly naff.
Oh, yeah, it's like the bike. It's got like bike pedals on it, hasn't it?
Yeah,
There's ones that are just like pressing up and down.
I did also think that maybe I might kind of spam my kneecaps on the underside of the desk with one of those.
Yeah, exactly. Doomph, doomph,
Yeah.
doomph. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. So I wanted to avoid that. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Which brings us neatly to the end of this week's really useful podcast. You can find all the information that we shared with you in this week's show notes. They should be displayed in the feed on Apple and other podcast providers. If you are still looking for them, though, if your podcast provider doesn't provide the show notes, then go to makeuseof.com, and there you can click the About button and then select Podcasts, and you'll find the show notes in the corresponding podcast title there. If there's anything useful in this show, please share it with your friends and family. We're delighted to welcome more listeners to this show every week. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next time. Until then, it's goodbye.